Welcome to The Real Deal with Tricia Riel. That's me, Trish the Dish. This comedic astrological report is for the later part of January and the early part of February 2019. As usual, some of the characters from my Zephram Gates books will be helping me with this report.
That's right. We help you take this report with a grain of salt, and a slice of lemon, and a shot of tequila.
As we approach the full moon lunar eclipse on January 20th, there's quite a buildup of energy. This full moon will be a super wolf blood moon. The wolf moon is the first full moon in January. It was called that by Native Americans and early colonial people. It's a blood moon because of its reddish tinge during the eclipse, which is produced because the only light that gets reflected off of it comes from the Earth as the moon travels through the Earth's umbra or shadow. I'm Beatrice Bragg, the head waitress and manager over at the Stew and Chew in Havesville. So I just love to find new places to eat. Did you hear about that new restaurant on the moon? Yeah, the food is excellent, but there's really no atmosphere. Right. So there will also be a pileup of planets in Capricorn opposing the moon as it approaches the culmination. Saturn is traveling through its home sign in Capricorn, opposite Cancer. Because Saturn has a 29-year cycle, the last time it was going through sobering Capricorn was from 1989 to 1991. The Sun, Mercury, Pluto, and the South Node are also traveling through tropical Capricorn now, giving us a preview of what the beginning of 2020 is going to feel like.
Yeah, people don't realize that the future is just now, but later.
Okay, thanks, Geezer. So this week may be intensifying the focus of our ambitions and our responsibilities. With all of that energy in Capricorn, there's also a lot of focus on the transformation of structures and on politics influencing us in real ways.
Yeah, like all of this talk about building a wall to keep immigrants from getting into the U.S. is really getting out of hand, especially since most foreigners enter the country by air. People could also just construct ways around a wall, but who ever heard of immigrants with construction tools?
Yes, Gussie. Who ever heard of such a thing? Because Capricorn rules governments, politics, and structures, we'll see a large focus on how the government is working or not working. When the government shuts down, museums and national parks are also closed. This is madness. I mean, where will all the bears go? Good question, Beatrice. People with Cancer and Capricorn energies prominent in their charts may also need to make friends with the unknown as they feel these intense Capricorn transits, wondering about their true security and looking at deeper life questions.
I'm Cousin Vinny, and all this talk of politics and security gets me wondering, what do diapers and politicians have in common? Turns out they both need changing regularly, and for exactly the same reason.
Yeah, it seems like number 45's mouth is his arch nemesis. Right. So the supermoon on January 20th will appear 14% larger and 30% brighter than a usual full moon because the moon will be at perigee, closest to the Earth in its orbit.
I am Dr. Melvin Moot, the science teacher over at the Fiddlesticks School for Alternative Thinkers with Unusual Abilities. And yes, supermoons are quite the phenomena. It got me thinking about other phenomena. I actually have a new theory on inertia, but it doesn't seem to be gaining any momentum.
So, the exact full moon is at 9:16 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Sunday, January 20th, and it will be conjunct the South Node. South Node eclipses are typically about endings, but this full moon is unique. The Sun and Moon will actually be at 0 degrees in the opposing signs of Aquarius and Leo as the Moon becomes truly full. So we'll revisit some of the themes from last year's eclipses in Aquarius and Leo for a new beginning.
Do you know how a man on the moon gets his hair cut? Eclipse it!
So, with this full moon, we are still completing some old visions and getting back to the heart of matters. It's time to say yes to the things you really feel drawn to in your heart, as this is a very powerful moon. Don't miss it. If you are wishy-washy about a choice, it's really not for you.
Yes, it's a very powerful moon indeed. It gets me wondering why atheists can't solve exponential equations. Turns out it's because they don't believe in higher powers.
So, this total lunar eclipse will be visible from parts of Western Europe, all of North America, Central America, and South America. And with Venus and Jupiter also coming together in Sagittarius, the truth is being revealed, and we are getting down to the bottom of things. Let go of what's not working to make room for what will work.
You know, I admit that I'm skeptical of people who tell me they do yoga every day. I mean, that's really a bit of a stretch.
So, anyway, it's a very dynamic week leading up to a very dynamic day on January 20th. Jupiter and Neptune are squaring in their home signs, similar to 1852 and 1853. So this time period suggests we are collectively going through a bit of a belief storm. We had the California gold rush back then, but we also had pre-Civil War unrest in the U.S.
You know, my therapist says I got a problem with vengeance. We'll see about that.
So, the vibes are a lot easier after the full moon on Monday, January 21st, as that day brings us a grand trine of Venus, Mars, and the Moon, all in fire signs. It's a new reality. Time to tap into your new frequency.
Well, change is inevitable. Except from a vending machine.
Mars and Saturn are also in a challenging square 90-degree angle to one another for the whole month of January. So, although we have the energy for moving forward on things with Mars and Aries, it's wise to exercise caution with Saturn in Capricorn. I'm Francine Muller, community activist. And you know, there are 3 kinds of people: those who can count and those who can't. Right. So by late January and early February, Mars will also be making a challenging square to Pluto. This is a very intense square. In mythology, Mars is the god of war, and Pluto is the god of the underworld. With these two energies at odds, we may continue to see world leaders trying to assert their power and dominance in an attempt to gain control over situations that are out of their control. Avoid temper tantrums and moderate this intense energy by focusing on continuous, hard work towards your ambitious goals.
Yeah, don't have a temper tantrum. Just like number 45, you should know that your life is really just peachy dory.
We are also just beginning to feel the conjunction between Pluto and Saturn in Capricorn, which will become exact in 2020. Pluto and Saturn come together once every 33 to 35 years, but the last time they came together in Capricorn was over 200 years ago.
You know the difference between a northern fairy tale and a southern fairy tale? A northern fairy tale begins once upon a time. A southern fairy tale begins, you all ain't gonna believe this shit.
So anyway, Pluto is coming to the end of a 248-year cycle. The last time Pluto was in the late degrees of Capricorn was pre-1776, the early 1500s, and in 1284. So this time period has some of the dark unrest of these earlier time periods, coupled with the possibility of a new renaissance on the horizon.
When people ask me how I'm doing in these times, I say, well, I can't complain. But that's not gonna stop me.
The other strong aspect that's happening in late January and into early February is Mars conjunct Uranus in Aries, one of the most volatile aspects, but also an aspect with great potential for new inventiveness.
You know, life is like a bird. It's pretty cute until it poops on your head.
Right. So by February 4th, we get a new moon in Aquarius, helping us to envision a new future. Venus will enter Capricorn to help make it real.
New energies are great. I think we've got enough youth in the world, so why don't we find a new fountain of smart?
The Mars-Uranus conjunction in Aries gets particularly intense as it perfects from February 10th to the 13th, as it also squares Pluto. This is the last hurrah of the Uranus-Pluto square that's been going on since 2010, also known as the Great Depression era aspect.
You know, I find that worrying actually works. More than 90% of the things I worry about never even happen.
The vibe lightens up a little on the day after Valentine's Day, February 14th, as there are a number of harmonious aspects that help the Uranus-Pluto square to feel a little less intense.
I am a French chef, so for Valentine's Day, I give you a hug and a quiche.
Stay tuned for future astrological reports through the Om Shala newsletter and YouTube. Subscribe to my channel and share this video with others if you've enjoyed it. To support The Real Deal into the future and also help with the publishing costs of my third Zephram Gates book, please become one of my regular supporters at my Patreon page, patreon.com/Tricia Riel. Links provided below. And big thanks to juggler videographer Eric Black for creating the intro thumbnails for The Real Deal. And this concludes The Real Deal with Tricia Riel.